on frying pan.
Okay, we're going to be doing some cooking this game, that's for sure.
I'm ready.
If we get it.
And I do want to mention one of those players is Jedusor, a player who was here in Remix Rumble, finished middle of the pack, but was one of those kind of young, rising French players. Now has established himself as that new school, the new generation of French talent, which I think we know, at least in EMEA, are very talented bunch of players. Jedusor is someone who, on day 2 of EMEA regional finals, needed a first place to make it into day 3. Picked up Fairy Emblem at 2-1, open-forwarded, understanding I need to go for an absolutely crazy win condition, found the 9 Fairy, won the game, punches ticket to day 3, and again, here playing for that high risk.
We talk about the importance of spot recognition in TFT. It's something that doesn't always get talked about. It's exactly what you're mentioning now. Spot recognition within a tournament format. Understanding the changes you need to make in order to optimize your game that don't grief the preparation that you've put up to this point in time.
Yeah, Jedusor also boasting one of the highest first place rates coming out of EMEA, right? 23% over the course of the set. Talking about that risk, right? Is able to convert on that risk a lot of the time.
Well, I like his spot right now because he's actually going to be able to get the 3 multi-striker online because we ended up getting support Anvil as the portal choice. You could actually look for something like the Banshees to be able to make sure that that multi-striker is going to be really, really strong.
There's going to be, I think, really differing playstyles in this game 6. It's weird to say because we're only on day 1, but because of the new format, because of the elimination, we're going to have players like Ironbog and Jedusor doing, absolutely crazy things to try and almost guarantee and flip their game into a second or a first, of course, keeping as much agency as they possibly can. And players like Darkest, players like YBY, just trying to continue what they're doing until now, continue with their game plans, trying to have a consistent 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, ooh, we see Zap attack there. Not something we've seen too much of, but it is very strong. But high horsepower as well for double. That is such a good augment to get on 2-1. The win rate of it is just so high, and if a player can convert on it, it's certainly double.
Category 5 for YBY, if uncontested, can be incredibly strong for both the Ashe reroll variant and multi-striker, as long as the Jinx as well.
Yeah, can be strong, but didn't want to go that direction. It looked like maybe not the items for it. Player's taking a long time. Pandora's was selected.
Going to be seeing a couple of players actually pop their support Anvils as well now that they've solidified an augment as well as a direction.
Yeah.
Maris choosing Raining Gold, I believe. That's actually a little bit surprising, something we don't see all too often.
I love this setup from YBY. I think it's going to be another masterclass showcasing a more niche reroll variant, the 2 healthy Syndra Vanguard line. Incredibly powerful. This is where we're at the end of the set. The optimization and the min-maxing and the edge of a reroll meta comes in knowing all the different possibilities, the variations of strong reroll lines. This is one of them.
Yeah, Syndra, Cassiopeia, Rumble, Galio, right? All part of that composition, all 2 costs, so getting as much value as you can out of that augment.
And you can move into something like a Neela. Later on level 7 to fit in Eldritch.
We reset him. We don't bring him back.
You know, I don't feel anything anymore. Reset worked.
Glad to hear.
Whoa, we see a sweet tooth coming in from Balmyong. That was not on my bingo card.
So many hero augments coming out here. Well, I guess just 2. There was potential for more, but still more than we see on average in a game.
I was going to say, I feel like we haven't really seen hero augments that much after we got past the 1 hero augment patch.
Yeah, we saw Deja Vu today, right? And it did a little bit better than expected.
To win
yeah,
also.
True. That's one that does lean into. Yeah, and Witchy Wallop. Okay, yeah.
I do get it for Balmyong, getting later into the day in Korea, looking for a midnight snack here with the Nunu. If it pans out. It is maybe not the most popular variation in terms of the Honeymancy lines, with 2 tanky being the real augment that enables that to become an S tier comp. I love Sututhunu started the set. It fell off, I think, drastically to the point where we don't really see it picked as often. One of the least picked hero augments in general. But if someone can make it work, it's someone like Balmyong, who has performed at a very high level, only second to Og when it comes to the consistency of qualifier point earnings across this set in particular.
I also want to say something that can influence this lobby is we talk about a lot of the players, but not specifically that is a specific for EMEA and for APAC representation. Generally, at the Tactician's Crown, we're going to see a bit more of a mix in each lobbies, but the meta clash is just going to be specifically versus those 2 regions, which might end up in a little bit different than we see generally during this tournament.
The thing that stands out to me when you're bringing bring that up are, for instance, we know that EMEA values multi-strikers very highly.
Yeah.
Something like North America, the Americas don't. If this is for EMEA for Americas, all of a sudden I think the EMEA players are probably feeling much more comfortable. But we saw how much the APAC region valued something like the multi-striker. So you don't really have that same edge that you might have in a different lobby circumstance.
I do also think there's a lot of value in posturing with a support item anvil at the very beginning at 2-1. The combination of support item anvil and augment, if your spot is good enough, you should, in theory, move anyone else from contesting you on something like a multi-strikers line for Jeduzor with a combination of keepers and the locket, for example. So when you're playing for your life in a game 6 where you could be eliminated, I think the idea of playing a reroll uncontested is very important.
It's almost the same thing as a hero augment at this point, right?
Exactly
That's essentially what you're doing. You take keepers, you pop the locket, and you're saying, I've got high horsepower, but for multis, right?
Yeah, wow. Actually, taking a look at all of these compositions, right, we're not really seeing anyone angle towards Wukong Jinx, which is very interesting because actually looking at the data from these two regions, Jinx AVP in APAC was 3.7 and 4.8 for EMEA.
I do think part of that has to do with what people are playing, though. Everybody is looking at 1 or 2 cost reroll.
Yep.
So is it actually worthwhile to go down that 3 cost line?
I do have to mention YBY might be in some trouble. There are currently 3 players itemizing Syndra.
Yep.
One of those players is Darkest, who just picked up a Syndra off the carousel with the exact component they needed to slam a Shojin. So, you know, sometimes you're contested and you're saying, give me any reason to move off of this line.
Yeah.
The opposite is happening.
More item slams here, leaning into the Syndra. But you mean this isn't the first patch of the set here, where you can just take a
No.
tier 2
Problem,
Syndra and go
is in the
level
past,
9?
you could play a Syndra 2 and still win the game.
Someone had to bring it
That
up.
is fortunately no longer the case. A 3-way contest will no longer work.
I will say,
Dang.
YBY now in a spot where Kubikson has the 2-star Syndra, like you're mentioning, and then obviously Darkest has the pair as well. YBY is the most narrow, right? Because he is the player
Exactly so.
with
Yeah.
2 healthy. I'm trying to think off the top of my head how many other lines can really utilize 2 healthy with a Rage Blade Slam already. Unfortunately, Neela is also not one of those.
No! You lied to us, Gately. You lied to us.
This
brought it back.
feels like a very tricky spot for YBY. And I will say, though, this is one of those moments where you actually are forced to cook in TFT. And if YBY can find his way out of the situation with some unique variation of the 2 healthy board that utilizes the Rage Blade, I mean, it will all the more prove why he's gotten to this spot in the first place.
That's one of the most exciting TFT is when you're forced to cook and actually make it work out, right? That is the stuff of highlight reels, right? The stuff of legends.
And I want to mention once again, who is the big winner in this situation? I believe it's uncontested Jeduzor, who is going to have a much easier time hitting the Kassadin 3 when there's Syndra's being held, there's Nunu's being held due to the Sweet Tooth as well. There's Galio's being held with a Mage's line that Maris is trying to commit to.
Why aren't you saying the Sweet Tooth player is the winner? I think Nunu is the real winner. This could actually be the rare occasion in which Sweet Tooth top 4s a game.
Let's see, Gangly. Did I one-trick Sweet Tooth for a month, or did I one-trick Kassadin and reroll? I think it's the latter.
There it is. The clarity strikes.
See a couple players on that win streak. Are they able to hang on to it, right? We see the matchup right here, Iron Bog versus Jedusor. But it is going to be Iron Bog actually taking it out, the sole player to win streak into Krugs.
And these are both players that need these points. These are the 2 that are sitting at the bottom of the standings when it comes into this 8-player lobby. So they want every point. Every point matters.
Absolutely.
I find Iron Bog's spot quite interesting, actually. The fact that he is playing tempo, he's level 5, but he has AP items slammed, things like the Adaptive Health and the Rabadons. Unless I'm missing something, this feels like a not super clear line.
Mages are free. I just want to point out that everyone else is going after the Syndras,
Yeah.
the Aries. Mages are free.
How much of the Vhagar, the
Yeah.
Vhagar variation have we seen?
Not too much, at least
much.
not on broadcast. Maybe the other lobbies we've seen more of it, but definitely a composition that wasn't towards the top of the most popular played in any region, I feel like, but it has been played, though. Players are still maybe in the position to have it on their radar to angle.
Big roll down for double coming up. Again, he is fully committed onto the Lilia due to the hero augment. No chance to pivot, not really going to be contested, so really should be easy or easy enough to find a lot of copies of his 1 cost here. He's sitting on Banshee's Veil as a support item, so maybe not the most intuitively synergistic with Lilia, but she is a melee unit.
Maris hit just 6 copies of Blitzcrank.
Wow.
Maris is 1 copy away from Blitz 3. This is definitely looking like a Mage Vanguard angle.
Oh,
See
man.
how low he's willing to roll, though, and it looks like it's going to be past that 30 mark. How low can we go?
I think you're okay with this. I think you're looking at everybody else taking out essentially all of the other 1 and 2 cost champions. You're more likely to hit the Seraphine as well as a Soraka. So I think you're okay with that.
Curious to see how this high horsepower does. So this variation where you don't have the Bloodthirster and instead you play with the Titans and the Warmogs, you have a lot of HP. The problem is, in the late game, this Lilia is going to have a lot of damage, a lot of problems dealing with burst. We're even seeing it now. Not having the shield made that fight extremely close. I will say, in Stage 3, the Lilia 3 will be quite strong, but I don't actually think that this safeguards double in the late game.
Oh,
Ooh.
prismatic.
A lot of items potentially if Buried Treasure is selected.
Prismatic ticket for Jedusor. I think he's going to want more combat strength power. Can be what the forge into multi-strikers. It's a little bit risky.
Can be great, though.
Yeah, something like Zanya's, right, on that Kassadin can be very, very high cap. Looking like it's a prismatic ticket lean, though. Maybe wanting to just hit early enough to shore up that lack of combat power.
If Jedusor needed to play for a first, specifically in this spot, I think it might be what the forge, but considering maybe he doesn't need a first, considering he wasn't that far down.
Yeah, he was at
standing.
18 points.
I'm also wondering if the fact that it's prismatic makes it easier or more difficult to bail YBY out of this very tricky spot. Goes with invested, which actually does mean that if he wants to play contested, all of a sudden he has a little bit of an advantage.
And it was with a forge in the end for Jedusor,
Yeah.
so curious to see what exactly he's able to build up there.
Yeah, kind of needs to high roll items, right? If you low roll items, it's just like, what do I do with this? Taking that risky line.
I like the Blossoming Lotus from Double will help eventually. The Ari also helps the all the extra AP that Lilia is getting from the Archangels here, so it makes a lot of sense. As you mentioned, Gang, a little bit iffy on the survivability of the Lilia, but the damage is definitely there.
I mean, we can see it right now. This is why it works so well on Stage 3. The Soraka has a really hard time actually killing the Lilia, but this Soraka, if it were Soraka 3, most likely kills that Lilia. So it's, I think it's tricky. I'm wondering if Double is actually playing
Nunu 3 already. Oh, never mind.
It was still a Nunu 1.
How far
You're getting
behind
a little ahead of yourself
on
here.
this
Oh my goodness.
Extremely behind.
I
That is
cannot
what-
believe that that's still a
I
Nunu
know, right?
2
Look at the
upgrade.
HP, right? You wouldn't think of it, right? Being able to save that much with a Nunu 1, but looks like that was the case here. We get to zoom in.
There we go. Thank you, observers.
You
I
get
was
these
just making
glasses
sure
checked.
our viewers are attentive, are paying attention
Right,
to the
attention
situation on the boards here.
All right, now we do get to see how much damage the Nunu 2 gets to put in. I will say, you know, we talked about the lack of survivability from the Lilia due to the lack of the Bloodthirster. This Nunu, on the other hand, is going to be able to ramp up, have the additional HP coming in from the Warmogs, and the Bloodthirster healing up on every cast. And this Nunu can actually become this sort of 1v9 machine.
Yeah, especially the Radiant Warmogs, right? Like you're talking about.
So
It's a really, really huge capping point for this.
And really becomes a giga scaling unit like a Syndra normally is.
Yeah, absolutely. Young feeling very good about the position and had 22 points coming to this game as well, so is feeling relatively safe, right? But we still want to be looking towards the future, even if you're safe for just that bottom 8. Still want to be getting those wins, getting as highest placement as possible.
Darkest and Kubixton both sitting at the bottom of the standings right now. The two players who I believe had those Syndras earlier on, right?
Yeah,
Darkest
had the Syndra.
Darkest did pivot off of it. Not exactly sure where he's going from here, but Kubixton is going to have to be contesting YBY on that line still.
Yeah, for Darkest, they have the Shojin and the Jewel Gauntlet on a Tristana right now, and that's not a great unit in, honestly, any stage of the game.
Don't tell me that's Blaster.
I think it might be.
probably
That does look
will
like
be.
the primary
Don't
AP line that
Tell
is,
me.
that
Darkest
is open.
is a player who played some amount of Blasters in our regional finals. Even on the last day, I do remember they committed to the plan B of AP. When it comes to rerolls, if you're contested on a line, you have to try and find a way out, and that tends to be that Hui Bard combo.
I understand.
Has to be the case, Necker. I'm sorry.
I know.
The good news is
I
it,
hope it
it likely will not be the variation with Ezreal, so you don't have to worry about
okay,
it. So,
okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'm okay now.
That was the pain point, right? Is the
Yes,
Ezreal? Yeah,
Ezreal.
Hwei is
Unless
great.
it has a Prowler's Claw.
We love Hwei.
So actually, we got to see this litmus test of the Soraka versus the Lilia earlier, and we saw how close that Lilia had actually come to falling, and the fact that she didn't have the Bloodthirster made it super close. This is kind of a taste of the issue this composition the Mages has in the late game, where when you don't have the ability to kill these strong single target units like a Lilia 3, like a Nunu 3, or like a Briar, it showcases that these Mages really need to find a different way to kill units.
Not only is it an issue in late game, it's an issue right now because of how far behind Maris is, right? Only 6 copies of both the Soraka and the Seraphine as well. Blitzcrank didn't even have any items on it.
Lock in,
Cat
Necro.
alert.
Lock in.
Cat alert.
And I heard
Darkus
the
is a
gasp.
cat.
I'm like, what's going on? Oh, okay.
It's Cat.
Cat check.
I do have to say, Gangly, a little bit disrespectful to the Mages, saying the taste of the issue as Nunu is chomping down on the units one by one.
Tasty mages.
Yeah, that's a weird looking Hwei costume there. On Darkus' board.
The new
Not-
skin,
Not
though.
really sure what that's doing.
Halloween
there.
already happened, guys.
I know.
I will say, with every fight that we watch this Nunu play, it does make me feel all the more like he's going to do quite well into a lot of these matchups. There's a lot of boards in this game that struggle with single target damage.
Before Gangly baits any of our viewers, this is specifically because Radiant Warmogs elevates this comp as a very, very thin condition into the stratosphere in terms of what it can achieve, not just now, but in the future of this game.
This guy's saying I'm baiting. You called the Nunu 3. What
Hey, I have my glasses on. They're
He's-
not perfectly calibrated.
He's
I'm doing my
4
best.
copies away from Nunu 3. We're keeping track.
Oh, we got to keep the count up on the side just so we know.
It's Bard reroll time.
Oh, Gobo
There
showed him the way
is
earlier
hard.
on in the day.
Yeah, we're still level 6, right? The Bard 3 condition can come through.
Respect to our EMEA champion.
That's right.
Absolutely. That was crazy. I'm still impressed by how well that did. Not something I had ever expected.
I will say, if Darkus finds a way to top 4 from this position, I'll be incredibly impressed. If I were him, or if I were them right now, I think I would be concerned not about going top 4, but just about trying to get points and not go 8th.
That being said, they're on 28 points right now.
Yep.
They're the one player in this lobby alongside someone like YBY who have a massive cushion, no worries about being eliminated in this day 1, obviously, and still looking to maybe come back whatever points you lose here in day 2 tomorrow.
Yeah, we see one of the Syndra contesters here, Kubik Sun versus YBY1. Seeing a little bit of just a level up here for Kubik Sun, more tempo style, right? This isn't the Syndra of the beginning of the set, so I wonder quite where we're going to go from here. We do have that duplicator on the bench, but just pushing levels, saving gold.
I want to highlight a personality trait from Kubikson. Fought like this, you're contested, you're nowhere close to hitting your upgrade. He is just cheerful, smiling, just so happy to be playing in Game 6 of a global championship.
He does not look happy.
Okay, it
Locked
shifted
it.
a bit. So when he's winning fights, he gets a little bit sadder. When everything's going slowly,
I see.
he's trying to balance it out.
I see. It's the pendulum.
Yeah, he was very emotive going second place a little bit ago with the multi-strikers, right? So, we'll see.
Bamyong continuing his streak, the Sweet Tooth. We might actually see it cap out quite high. I do want to keep tabs on players like Ironbog, one of the players that we said did not have a clear line coming out of stage 2. So this is the part of the game where they really do need to find that clarity if they don't have it already.
Absolutely.
Kind of looking like an
Ooh.
Ari Bastion
Oh,
angle.
okay.
There's-
YBY was the Syndra player and has found his way into this fairy line. Just had the Syndra to carry these items. Found one copy of Callista. Pair of Rakans, though.
Wait, this was like Kubikson was smiling. I was pivoting off
We
Syndra.
found out the reason.
I take it back.
I bullied this guy away from my line. It's my line.
Yeah, in correction, I had called before that he had taken invested. Instead, it actually was the tiniest Titan, so YBY instead just trying to take the tempo that he had from the early game and say, listen, I'm just going to try and go 8, maybe play something like the Callista. We saw players like Dishtope do this in the Americas. It is possible to play Callista from ahead, potentially not the most useful way to do it, but you are playing 2 costs in this. You're playing things like this Tristana, like this Zillion, so you're getting some value out of that augment you took.
Yeah, this is a good litmus test of how YBY1 will perform just in this entire event, right? Has not bottom forward a single game so far, 32 points sitting at the top, was bullied off of the line that they wanted to go initially, and I think has found a fantastic pivot into Fairy. So depending on where they go from there, right, they have still a little bit of gold to find that Recon 2, find that Callista, but if they still find themselves once again in that top 4, you got to look at YBY1 and maybe VOD review be like, all right, what's this guy doing? Let me try to emulate that.
Unfortunate spot for Darkest here. They have found the way. He is itemized, but all in all, doesn't seem like much is going on this board. A 4-loss streak. You're missing a lot of key upgrades very far away from your next massive spike, which would be the 3 stars. The augments are okay, of course, with Balsam Lotus especially, but I'm going to have a very hard time.
We have a fairy charm.
They try to high roll with the charm. That gives you
The
a
emblem.
emblem. Yes. If it hit, it's not like a Vanguard or a Blaster, right? Or Preserver, right? There's a few outs here. And I think that's actually good recognition of the spot. It's right. My spot is looking very bad. I'm very behind. I need to look for that high roll. Granted, it costs a lot of gold. That's why we see Darkest here at that 30 gold. Only 4 Mordekaisers, 3 Hueys. But I think I do like the attempt, though, even if it doesn't end up working out.
And from Ironbog, we're seeing the shades of the Target Aphelios, Rageblade, Bastion Emblem, the full Bastion setup, moving into maybe the Bastion Callista or the Bastion Zerath, if Ironbog is able to make it that far.
Wait, there's 2 Bastion emblems from Ironbog, actually. Wow.
Darkest able to take the pan there, maybe find a different bailout option. I don't remember exactly what the open component
Darkest
was.
had
has
an open spatula. Yeah,
open spat.
we get a
Yeah.
Tactician's Cape.
So they can make +1 on their board, and
Yeah.
then hopefully slot in something else. Maybe you can find your fairies and actually make them.
Maybe you're right. There's the splash.
Find
There's
your
not a blaster.
fairies. Where's the fairies on the board here?
Well, you
There's...
play Huey, Blaster,
That's
then
right, you
put
have
in
Tristana.
Tristana, and then
Yeah,
You have
that's
your-
true.
I see
Yeah,
the vision
see,
behind it. I
see.
Blind, just find Emilio, toss in there, just a good unit, a legendary. You're cooking,
And then
Macra,
you've
you're
got
cooking.
Scholar with the Bard. You're set. You only have 30 gold, but you're set.
You're set. Yep, confirmed. Still a long way to go for that to end up being good, but 8 Bastion on the board for Ironbog. Generally, we see it come through with a Zerath in the back line, right? Invincible Zerath, but this is maybe an Invincible Callista for now.
Making life more difficult for YBY as well.
yeah.
Only a Callista 1 per YBY, maybe thinking, hey, I'm going to contest on the fairy line, I'll pivot into it off of Syndra, I'll let Kubican have a better time, and then suddenly Ironbog is moving in with a very, very niche setup.
And this is an important game for Ironbog. 16 points, right, is not safe, needs to have a top finish in this game. And you look at a composition like 8 Bastion Callista, and you're like, is that actually going to have the finish that we want?
3 components on the bench, so losing a lot of power maybe is what's missing in terms of winning this fight.
And is really struggling, in fact, right? That's a several unit loss here. Ironbog taking a big hit.
In a scaling fight, think about the Melio on the opposite side, printing so many items and
Absolutely.
slowly winning that fight against you.
Pair of Callistas.
Send it.
Yeah, I
There's the
think
Shen.
has to roll more, right?
Yeah, I mean, the AD 8 Bastion line is something that definitely is not as fleshed out and as common as the AP variation. This feels, I mean, to be honest, it feels very hard to climb out of. I think if
Yeah.
you're Ironbog here, you kind of recognize that right now you're just trying to win the fight in front of you, and you don't really have any grander plans.
That's right. This is the What the Forge multi-strikers from Jedusor. And
Wit's End is
Yeah.
a high roll, but everything else is looking a little bit
Sniper
grim.
Focus is interesting,
Lich
right?
Bane Kali.
Telling me you don't like the Keeper's Hole Crusher combination on this board?
Yeah, I don't know about this one. The Castan is going to be rather safe, though. There's no healing, but doesn't need to be because just the safe positioning, but there's just not enough damage, right? They're just sort of taking a big loss there. 4th in a row.
This could be problematic. Darkest already taken down in 8th place. A difficult game to come out from. We saw it early on. And this is what ends up happening when there's a 3-way contest. You have to pivot off of your structured, secure game plan in stage 2, and you don't find your footing.
I want to say I'm a little surprised by the shape of the game that Jedusor has played. Generally, when you're playing multi-strikers, you want to be able to force your win streak through stage 3 and then trying to extend that as long as you can on stage 4, unless you are trying to play for a very high cap, in which case you can sacrifice that. I'm actually a little surprised to see Jedusor at 50 gold right now, because I imagine there's a world in which you're able to win a handful of more fights on stage 4 if you roll to 0, hit Ashe 3, hit Jax 3, hit Kassadin 3, and instead this feels like you're playing for a higher cap that I just don't really see in front of us.
Yeah.
But you've got Blighted Jewel.
Yeesh.
Yeah. You do have Blighted Jewel, and you have a bunch of gold to
Potentially
roll with
has
here.
to roll to find maybe some kind of a reforger option to get rid of these.
Yeah.
He's rolling now.
Ashe
There's that
3.
Ashe.
Frontline Ashe.
This is
Why
fun.
is the
I didn't even know.
Ashe in the front?
I mean, even with the cast,
There's bigger questions to ask next time.
Yeah. There's a lot going on
Someone
here.
please explain to me.
I mean,
There we go.
There's some consideration for still a
That's
frontline cast, and I
better.
think with the locket, just give him extra resist. As soon as he takes down that first unit, it'll just stay in the same spot.
But I would want the separation. Like, I want that Ashe away from everything.
Blighted Jewel Ashe is going to spread it on multiple targets, right? It still does apply the debuff, makes it a bit easier for the cast to take out these units, but
Everyone's clumped up for the Callista.
yeah.
On the other side, though, Ironbog was able to get 3 items on the Callista 2.
True.
And so we are still seeing, though, how little damage is on this board. The Diana with Archangels and Bloodthirster, though, I think that's kind of your primary way of trying to bridge the gap. Maybe Ironbog is out of the woods. I'm not exactly confident that he's turned a corner yet, though.
On the flip side of things, Balmyong is in a 10-win streak.
Yeah. Darkest eliminated as well, actually, so not able to salvage that Hui Vanguard spot. Balmyong doing fantastic, however, though. That Sweet Tooth Nunu, right? That Radiant Warmog's Pride coming in here.
Trying to find the Jax 3, can't find it, has to sell to make the Hecarim 2, knowing that Jedizor he has to try and win any of these last few fights. This was the risk we talked about with the Forge, and unfortunately it panned out in the worst possible way. It seemed like Jedizor terrible items all across the board, except for that Wit's End, really.
So many good AP items, just not really helping out with the multi-strikers in particular.
Speaking of AP, Maris did finally find the Soraka 3 and the Seraphine 3 as well, and was able to push 8.
Look at Diana, though. Great itemization. BT, Archangel, the second cast coming in now, going to be
There's a lot of
pretty
damage.
explosive on the back line, buying so much time for this
Where'd
Calista
she
to
go?
slowly
Oh,
ramp.
there we go, another one.
Ooh,
And
great
maybe even
cast.
a fourth.
Oh,
Oh, no,
no.
no fourth cast. Can the Calista clean up in time is a big question here.
Enough of the Bastions have fallen that Callista can now start taking damage, but no, we've seen the front line has fallen. And Callista able to take that. Ironbog, you know what? Maybe he's got a chance.
8 Bastion Moonstone Renewer, that does a
Oh, wow.
lot of work.
Yeah, it does.
All the shields with all the resistances, we love to see it.
Rise of support Anvil.
Yeah.
Double trying to find any amount of combat strength here with the high horsepower, adding a dragon to the mix now as well. Arcana emblem.
If high horsepower goes 7th here, which looks like a realistic possibility for double, that'd be a big surprise, but there's just really no other damage coming through, as Zoe with the Nashers isn't going to be enough as a secondary carry.
I mean, we kind of looked at the state of his game, even towards the very beginning, no Bloodthirster on the Lilia. He was losing a lot of fights that otherwise he would look at with a board like that and be able to win.
Syndra on the right side, potentially onto the Lilia right away. The Lilia is healing past a lot of the damage, healing back up off of every takedown. Can she wrap onto the Syndra in time before this gets completely out of control? For now, Lilia is very much safe and healthy. It looks like double might be okay, but now Lilia is rerouted back to the center of the board. Syndra is taken down, thankfully, and that should be enough. It is a pretty crazy combo with Shapeshifters and Suspicious Trenchcoat, but Lilia clears.
Wow, look at the difference there for double once he's able to actually get the Bloodthirster on the Lilia. And this is what we talked about. If you do just have the Warmogs, Titans, Archangels like we saw in the early game, double does not have the time for that Lilia to get back up to full, and it's certainly a loss. So heads up play from double to use the itemization and swap the best items onto.
For Jedizor, so big.
Okay.
Jedizor's down to 8 HP on a single life, fighting for his tournament life, considering the elimination going to day 2.
Is there a Callista for Jedusor? Is the question, right? Because he doesn't find one. There's no 7 multi.
Jedusor also, I think, like... Oh, it's so tough because a lot of the Callistas were taken out already.
Yeah, true.
Like, YBY1 has the Callista. We're also seeing the Callista on Ironbog's board.
Also has no gold to really
Yeah.
roll. It's going to be tough.
Maris here, 1 life remaining. is playing this Vanguard Mage's line, but it's just not quite doing enough, right? Hasn't saved enough HP in the early game just because of how slow the start was.
Well, he also had to pivot to this. This was not something that Maris had initially wanted to play. It just so happened that everybody else was playing Syndra, and so you have to find something else, and the mage line was open. This is last life, though. Jedusaur as well is going to be running into a big problem on the other side.
Showdown here. Jedusaur versus Double. Lilia versus Kassadin. Lilia is taken down to half health. Can they burst her down in time is the big question. She's healing up after every single cast, but finally she's down. Akali, Challenger AI, bounding the top left corner. Could this be the win? Can Kassadin clear out in time? Akali has done her job. Can the main carry finish off this fight? Up against Emilio, I think the answer should be yes. Jedusaur survives for one more fight at least. He has 2 direct rivals in this lobby as well, with Maris at 20 points and Ironbog as well.
Take a look at the HP totals as we come out of this fight. Because of the way that it happened, the fights that were won, we have 4 players under 10 HP.
Yeah, not even 2.
Get eliminated.
Jedusaur 18 points. Maris is on 20, so as long as Jedusaur gaps Maris by 2 positions, that's already maybe a small tiebreaker with a direct rival. He can win to move out of that bottom 8.
Ironbog was at 16 as well, and Ironbog in the 4-win streak, another player, right, that if he places higher, can still knock them out of that spot. This is a very important couple of rounds, right? Combat charms, positioning, gotta be looking at all of it at this point.
Ooh, Jedusaur gets a ghost. That's kind of a big deal, but it's going to be the Seraphine that has the Archangels as well as the Morellos now.
Akali. Can this Akali do things that she's never done before?
Dashes away.
Doesn't go into the bottom or the top left corner. Now
here.
she does it. It's too late though. Not enough damage coming through. The Kassadin is very far away.
Oh no.
Staying safe, but the entire team has already been eliminated. Can Jedusaur at the very least eke out a few more placements if he kills off units here?
No, not able to kill much.
It's going to be a big loss.
On the left side, Bloodthirster's been procced. Vanguard's been procced. The Lilia falls.
Double falls.
Not enough. Double will be eliminated with that fight.
Yeah,
And
Maris is going to take out 2 players with that
Maris is
one.
a direct rival as well to Jedusaur, so bad news for Jedusaur, for a player who has proven so much in the last few sets in the French scene, in the EMEA scene, finishing 6th in the end, YBY 5th, Double 7th place.
Yeah, Jedusaur, maybe that one extra placement can make a big difference. YBY as well, the first bottom 4 of the tournament, and it's a 5th though, so still going to be looking pretty good in the standings.
And it was a creative 5th. Like, that was originally looking at a spot where YBY might have gone 8th if he maintained in that contested tree. So
absolutely
good placements for him.
Sometimes some of the best games are like, all right, I got a 5th in a game that wasn't looking anywhere near that, right? So that salvaging a few placements, especially in tournament format, feels so, so good.
We have our top 4 though.
Really poor news for any fans of EMEA TFT. We do lose the regional battle here between APAC and in a big way as well. Darkest, Double, Jedusaur, all in the bottom 3 positions.
Balmyong still on top though. He did have like a 10 win streak earlier on in the game.
Yeah, using a pretty interesting tech, using the Nora, having the Yuumi buff up that Nunu, so really angling this entire fight as just this 1v9 mob boss. It's a cool setup.
As if the Nunu needed more power, right? Add a Yuumi on top of it.
Yeah, Radiant Warmogs at 3-2 is just an absolutely crazy condition in terms of how much it elevates the Sweet Tooth Nunu comp. Kubikson fighting to gain some honor in this battle, at least in this game number 6, trying to make that Syndra work.
Ironbog and Maris are still going to be in danger of elimination, and only one of them can go out here as they face each other. Wow. The Seraphine is going to try to access that Kalista in the back.
Diana goes back to the front line. The question is whether or not she's going to be able to cast one more time and potentially kill that back line. She gets back there, just barely doesn't have enough damage, but she's still alive.
Whoa! The Giga Diana, 8 Bastion Diana with a BT and an Archangel is an absolute demon, and really throws back to set 9 Runeterra Reforged, a Target Aphelios comp with the Bastion. Same exact setup here for Kalista.
I mean, kudos to Ironbog. This is a setup that we do not typically see. Yes, we do see that 8 Bastions do particularly well, but not in the AD tree. I mean, this is a heads-up line that many players probably did not have situations in which they could prepare them. So if Ironbog didn't prepare this, this is great heads-up play.
I want to shout out Kubikson as well. Actually dealt a pretty big blow there to Balmyoung, and we haven't really seen his board in quite a while. So let's take a look at it. Super locked in with the Syndra Shapeshifters. Doesn't have the Syndra 3, but has a lot of Shapeshifters and a lot of power in the front.
Diana can get bursted down here by the Syndra if she locks onto her before she moves into that backline. For now, just central position for Diana, not doing too much, only really affecting the tanks here, slowly scaling up both the Archangel on Diana and the Rage Blade on the Kalista. Does the Syndra have enough burst damage is a big question.
Syndra 2. Maybe not, right? This is not a Syndra that we generally see in this meta. It's going to be a lot weaker. Diana, though, once again, gets more cast off. Actually does fall,
Finally taken down. The Gunblade from the Casio doing a little bit as well there, but Syndra finally eliminated. A big loss, but not quite big enough for Kubikson to go down to 3 HP.
Yeah, going back to Ironbog's position, right? I don't think we've seen any 8 Bastion AD actually in the stats. So to be able to find this creative of a line in a game where Ironbog needed to have a top finish, right? To be able to play that risky, say, hey, I don't know how this is going to work out. It is my line though, and I have to pray that it works out. Really, really good stuff.
That being said, in APAC, Ironbog is known as a player who can, will, and has played every single forecast in multiple different variations. If there's someone I expect to know the extremely niche line of swapping out the usual AP Xerath Bastion board into a Kalista board instead, I think it has to be him.
He is the APAC Golden Spatula winner for a reason.
Absolutely.
Kubikson here on his last legs, up against Sweet Tooth Nunu. Someone tell him Halloween's over.
No.
This Nunu is on a tear, though. There's just not enough damage here. And yeah, this Nunu's going to walk straight into the back line. There's no way for Kubikson to survive. Great third place, though, for Kubikson, who I think was dealt, took a risk on 3-2, was not, in stage 2, and, made the most out of it.
Oh,
Ironbog also taken down, and Sweet Tooth Nunu, of all things, you can cross that one off of your bingo sheet, takes the big win for Balmyoung.
Wow, such fantastic play there. Kubikson tempo Syndra into third. Ironbog with the creative 8 Bastion Kalista line getting that second place. But Sweet Tooth Nunu, I think we knew that was going to probably be at the top since that Warmog's Pride there came through.
I think when we look at that lobby, it's pretty cool that the two players that were the most attention was drawn to is Balmyoung and Ironbog. So we talked a lot about Ironbog already, this kind of hot commodity coming up in APAC. Balmyoung, similar story. This is a player who, like you mentioned earlier, David, only second to Og with in terms of QP, and qualified into the set championship before actually going to the Golden Spatula. Balmyoung has been on a tear all set long, and now we get to see him back up against the wall. Great play.
Yeah.